Here's an expanded 950-word version of Part 1, with engaging narrative and dynamic storytelling. The massive holographic display flickered with an alien transmission that made Jay Park's heart race. Outside the observation deck, the Earth Alliance, flagship Horizon Breaker, drifted silently against the endless black canvas of space, its titanium-reinforced hull gleaming with sophisticated defense systems that represented humanity's most advanced technological achievement. Jay adjusted his communication earpiece, watching the translucent image of the alien diplomatic representative materialize. Unlike previous Earth government officials who might have appeared nervous, Jay's posture remained relaxed yet alert, a quintessential human trait of confident unpredictability. The alien representative, a crystalline being composed of interconnected, geometric shapes that shifted and realigned with each movement, communicated through a complex series of light pulses and electromagnetic frequencies. Most species would have required elaborate translation matrices, but humanity's recent quantum communication breakthroughs meant Jay understood every nuanced communication instantly. Preliminary territorial claims require immediate compliance, the alien transmission stated, its tone clinical and detached. Jay smiled, a smile that didn't just communicate friendliness, but carried an unmistakable undertone of strategic challenge. "We're listening," he responded, his fingers dancing across the holographic control panel. Behind him, the ship's advanced AI system, nicknamed Guardian, began running multiple scenario calculations. Quantum probability matrices flickered across secondary screens, analyzing potential diplomatic and potential conflict outcomes with lightning speed. The alien's geometric form suddenly pulsed with what could only be interpreted as confusion. Humans were supposed to be a newly discovered species, primitive, predictable. Their communication protocols should have been simple, their responses mechanical. But Jay Park represented something entirely different. The Horizon Breaker's exterior. Sensors began a passive scanning sequence, mapping the alien vessel's structural integrity, energy signatures, and potential weapon systems. This wasn't aggression. This was pure, calculated human curiosity. Suddenly, a series of unexpected communication packets began streaming from the human vessel. They weren't standard diplomatic protocols, but a complex algorithmic sequence that seemed to dance between mathematical precision and creative improvisation. The alien representative's geometric structure started vibrating, a potential sign of technological disruption. Jay knew exactly what he was doing. Humans had a unique ability to turn first contact into an intellectual chess match, where the rules were constantly being rewritten. The ship's interior hummed with quiet anticipation. Crew members from diverse backgrounds, engineers, linguists, military strategists, watched the interaction with a collective sense of excitement. This wasn't just a diplomatic meeting. This was humanity's first real step into a larger galactic community. Guardian's voice softly echoed through the communication systems. Diplomatic interaction proceeding with 78.3% probability of positive outcome. Recommend continued adaptive communication strategy. The aliens' response came back, this time with a slightly altered frequency. They were adapting, trying to understand this unpredictable human communication style. Jay's smile widened. Adaptation was a human specialty. Outside, distant stars watched silently as two civilizations, one ancient and structured, the other young and dynamically innovative, began a conversation that would reshape galactic understanding. The Horizon Breaker's external lights pulsed in a carefully choreographed sequence, not just a visual display, but a complex communication method that blended technological sophistication with artistic expression. It was quintessentially human, pragmatic yet creative, structured yet spontaneous. Within moments, the alien representative's transmission began showing signs of what could only be described as intellectual fascination. Humans weren't just another species to be categorized and filed away. They were something entirely different. A new chapter in galactic history was about to be written, and humanity would ensure it was written on their terms. The transmission continued, each moment revealing layers of potential, complexity, and an undeniable human spirit that refused to be confined by traditional expectations. First contact wasn't just a meeting. For humans, it was an opportunity, and Jay Park was ready to seize it. End of part 1. Would you like me to continue with the next part of the story? Here's an expanded 950-word version of part 2 with an engaging narrative. The research facility hummed with an electric intensity that defied conventional scientific expectations. Dae Kim's fingers moved like a maestro across holographic interfaces, her eyes reflecting the quantum data streams that danced around her workstation. Outside the lab's reinforced windows, the Earth's orbital research complex stretched like a metallic spiderweb against the backdrop of infinite darkness. 3 years had passed since humanity's first alien contact, and the technological race was accelerating faster than anyone could have predicted. Dae's quantum neural interface wasn't just another research project. It was a potential revolution that could rewrite the rules of interstellar communication. Guardian, run quantum entanglement simulation, she muttered, her voice calm but charged. With excitement, the facility's advanced AI system responded instantly. Holographic projections burst into life, showing complex neural networks that seemed to breathe and pulse with living energy. Where traditional communication systems required massive energy expenditures and relied on decades-old transmission, technologies Dae's prototype promised something entirely different. A panel of international and alien scientific observers watched through secure holographic feeds. Representatives from the Galactic Confederation, beings who had dominated technological research for millennia, watched with a mixture of curiosity and growing unease. The prototype looked deceptively simple. A small, crystalline device no larger than a human palm, embedded with microscopic quantum processors that seemed to defy the laws of traditional computing. But Dae knew it was so much more. Sudden alarms erupted across the facility. The quantum network was doing something unexpected. Adapting, learning, evolving faster than any programmed algorithm could predict. Stabilizing quantum field, Guardian's voice remained calm, a perfect counterpoint to the growing excitement. Alien scientists in the observation panel began communicating rapidly. Their geometric communication patterns suggested growing tension. Humans were supposed to be a young species, technologically primitive. This prototype challenged everything they understood about technological development. Dae's assistant, a young engineer named Hyun, rushed to her side. "The quantum network is self-expanding," he asked, his voice a mixture of confusion and wonder. "Not just expanding," Dae replied, her eyes never leaving the holographic displays. "It's learning." The device began generating communication patterns that seemed to bridge impossible distances. Traditional communication systems required years of calibration and massive energy investments. This prototype was creating quantum bridges in milliseconds. Outside the facility, orbital defense platforms and deep space communication relays began receiving unexpected data streams. Clean, precise information that carried layers of complexity impossible through traditional transmission methods. A holographic feed from a distant space probe suddenly came to life. The probe, previously considered non-functional after a catastrophic solar radiation event, began transmitting crystal-clear data. Somehow Dae's quantum interface had not just repaired the communication channel, it had transformed it. The Galactic Confederation's primary research director, a being composed of interconnected energy patterns, appeared in the observation panel. Its communication suggested pure scientific shock. "Impossible," the being transmitted. "Your species should not be capable of this level of technological innovation." Dae allowed herself a small smile. Impossibility had never been a limitation. For humans, the quantum interface continued its miraculous performance. It wasn't just a communication device, it was becoming a living network, adapting and learning with each microsecond of operation. Traditional technological models suggested such rapid evolution was fundamentally impossible. Humans, once again, were rewriting the rules. Hyun watched in amazement as the device began generating communication protocols that seemed to transcend traditional understanding of physics. It wasn't just transmitting information, it was creating new pathways of understanding. "We're not just communicating," Day whispered, more to herself than anyone else. "We're creating a new language of connection." The facility's energy readings spiked. Quantum fields danced and intertwined, creating patterns of communication that seemed to breathe with an almost living intelligence. The alien observers shifted, uncomfortably, their geometric forms pulsing with a mixture of fascination and growing concern. Humanity had done it again. Where others saw barriers, they saw opportunities. Where others accepted limitations, they created revolutions. The quantum interface continued its miraculous performance, a small device that promised to transform humanity's understanding of communication, connection, and possibility. End of part 2. Would you like me to continue with the next part of the story? Here's an expanded 950-word version of part 3 with an engaging narrative. The void of space erupted with chaos as the human strike team's vessels darted between massive Confederation battleships. Captain Wu Han's hands moved like lightning across the tactical interface, his neural-linked combat system translating thoughts into impossible maneuvers that defied every known law of space combat. The Thunderbolt, Han's custom-modified strike vessel, wasn't just a spacecraft. It was a testament to human ingenuity, a machine that seemed to breathe with a living intelligence that merged pilot and technology in ways no alien species could comprehend. Confederation battle formations, precise geometric patterns that had dominated galactic warfare for centuries, began to fracture. Where alien tacticians expected linear responses, humans introduced beautiful, terrifying unpredictability. Proximity alarms screamed across multiple frequencies. Massive alien weapon systems tracked the human vessels, their advanced targeting. Computers struggling to predict movement patterns that seemed to defy mathematical probability. "Guardian, initiate quantum drift sequence," Han muttered, a calm smile playing across his lips. The ship's AI responded instantly. External hull plates began shifting, creating micro-adaptations that scattered targeting systems. It wasn't just defense. It was a living, breathing combat organism that responded faster than any programmed system. Surrounding spacecraft, piloted by veteran Confederation warriors who had fought across hundreds of star systems, watched in growing horror. Human vessels moved like living creatures, dancing between massive energy weapon discharges with a grace that seemed to mock conventional understanding of spatial mechanics. Han's strike team wasn't just fighting. They were rewriting the fundamental understanding of combat. A massive alien dreadnought, a kilometer-long vessel that had decimated entire planetary defense systems, suddenly found itself outmaneuvered by 3 human corvettes. Where traditional military doctrine suggested direct confrontation, the human team used the massive ship's own energy signatures against it. Redirecting gravitational stress points, Han's tactical officer, a young woman named Rai, called out. Her fingers danced across holographic interfaces, creating combat algorithms that seemed to emerge from pure creativity. The dreadnought's massive energy systems began to destabilize, not through direct weapon impacts, but through a series of calculated disruptions that turned the ship's own defensive mechanisms into a source of critical failure. Alien communication channels erupted with confusion. Their tactical AI systems couldn't process the human approach. It wasn't just unconventional, it was fundamentally incomprehensible. Han's neural link allowed him to see multiple combat scenarios simultaneously. Where alien pilots saw individual combat zones, he perceived a living, breathing battlefield that could be manipulated like a complex musical composition. Quantum interference pattern activated. Guardian's voice remained calm. Confederation defensive systems experiencing 78.2% operational disruption. Massive energy weapons that should have obliterated the human vessels found themselves targeting empty space. The human ships weren't just avoiding detection, they were actively rewriting the fundamental understanding of spatial positioning. Outside the primary combat zone, smaller human support vessels began implementing strategies that looked like pure chaos to alien observers. But within that chaos was a precise, almost musical understanding of battlefield dynamics. A young pilot in Han's squadron executed a maneuver that would have been considered suicidal by any other species. Diving directly into the energy discharge of a massive alien weapon system, the vessel used the weapon's own energy to create a temporary quantum shield. The Confederation's primary battle coordinator, a being of pure computational energy, found its predictive models completely shattered. Humans weren't just fighting, they were transforming the very nature of conflict. They're treating warfare like a creative performance, one alien tactical advisor transmitted, its geometric form pulsing with a mixture of fear and grudging respect. Han's vessel continued its impossible dance. Each movement was a statement, a declaration that humanity would not be constrained by traditional understanding. Where others saw limitations, humans saw opportunities for transformation. The battle wasn't just a military engagement, it was a demonstration of human spirit, adaptable, creative, refusing to be confined by established rules. As massive alien vessels began to retreat, something unprecedented happened. The human strike team didn't pursue total destruction. Instead, they demonstrated a complex understanding of conflict resolution that went beyond simple military victory. They were showing the galaxy something fundamentally human, the ability to transform conflict into an opportunity for understanding. The void of space remained silent, bearing witness to a moment that would reshape galactic understanding of warfare, strategy, and human potential. End of Part 3. Would you like me to continue with the next part of the story? Here's an expanded 950-word version of Part 4 with an engaging narrative. The Galactic Council Chamber stretched like a massive crystalline amphitheater, its architecture a testament to millennia of structured diplomatic tradition. Alien representatives from thousands of star systems sat in geometric formations, their energy patterns and physical structures a complex tapestry of galactic diversity. Ambassador Ri Xin stood at the center, her presence both calm and electric. She wasn't wearing the traditional diplomatic robes that signaled subservience or formal rigidity. Instead, she wore a sleek adaptive suit that subtly shifted colors, a visual metaphor for human adaptability. No holographic presentations accompanied her, no complex data streams, just Rai, a small data crystal, and an unshakable confidence that made the alien delegates shift uncomfortably in their quantum-stabilized seats. "Cooperation isn't about compliance," she began, her voice carrying a clarity that cut through multiple translation matrices. "It's about collective growth." The chamber's ambient energy seemed to pause. Diplomatic protocols across thousands of years had always been about strict hierarchies, carefully negotiated boundaries and minimal interaction. Humans were proposing something entirely different. A crystalline representative from the Zorn Confederation, a species that had dominated diplomatic interactions for over 3,000 years, pulsed with visible confusion. Their communication matrices suggested pure bewilderment, reactivated the data crystal. Instead of technical specifications or territorial maps, the holographic display showed something unexpected: human community projects, collaborative scientific research, environmental restoration initiatives from various planetary settlements. "We don't see borders," Ri continued. "We see opportunities for mutual development." The Chamber's translation systems worked overtime. This wasn't a typical diplomatic proposal. This was a fundamental reimagining of interstellar relationships. Images began flowing. Communities of different species working together on terraforming projects. Collaborative research stations where biological and technological differences became strengths instead of barriers. Educational exchange programs that didn't just share information but created genuine cultural understanding. The Zorn representative's geometric structure began vibrating, a potential sign of internal computational recalculation. Humans were dismantling millennia of established diplomatic models with simple, elegant logic. "Our proposal isn't about who controls what," Ri said, her hands moving in precise, compelling gestures. "It's about how we can collectively solve challenges that no single species can address alone." Quantum communication networks began lighting up across the chamber. Diplomatic advisors from various star systems were receiving real-time analysis of the human proposal. The data suggested something revolutionary, a cooperative model that didn't rely on dominance or strict hierarchical structures. A representative from the energy-based Luminari civilization transmitted a response that suggested pure intellectual excitement. "Your species understands something fundamental that we've forgotten," the transmission suggested. "Diversity isn't a challenge, it's an opportunity." Ree's presentation continued. She showed how human settlements had integrated technologies and cultural practices from multiple species, not through forced assimilation, but through genuine curiosity and respect. The chamber's ambient temperature seemed to shift. What had begun as a standard diplomatic meeting was transforming into something unprecedented. "We're not asking for permission," Ree said, her voice carrying a subtle steel beneath its diplomatic smoothness. "We're offering a new way of existing, together." Holographic displays began showing collaborative projects, space cleaning initiatives that restored damaged stellar environments, medical research that combined multiple species' biological understanding, educational platforms that allowed instantaneous knowledge transfer across vast galactic distances. The Zorn representatives' communication patterns suggested a mixture of fear and grudging respect. Humans weren't just proposing a diplomatic model, they were demonstrating an entire philosophical approach to existence. "Our differences aren't weaknesses," Ree continued. "They're the raw materials of collective potential." As her presentation concluded, something unprecedented happened. Instead of the traditional formal voting procedures, diplomatic representatives began spontaneously communicating, not through official channels, but through a complex web of quantum-linked conversations that defied traditional diplomatic protocols. The chamber buzzed with an energy that suggested fundamental transformation was possible. Ree Shin had done more than present a diplomatic proposal. She had introduced a new way of understanding collective potential. The galaxy would never be the same. End of part 4. Would you like me to continue with the next part of the story? Here's an expanded 950-word version of part 5 with an engaging narrative. The Galactic Historical Archive stood as a massive crystalline structure, floating in the neutral zone between thousands of star systems. Centuries of accumulated knowledge pulsed within its quantum memory banks, recording the most significant moments of collective civilization. Today, something unprecedented was happening. The final comprehensive report on human expansion was being compiled. Not by humans, but by a collective of alien historians, each representing different species that had witnessed humanity's extraordinary journey. Dr. Yun, a senior historian from the energy-based Luminari civilization, carefully reviewed the accumulated data. Her translucent form shifted with complex emotional patterns that suggested both admiration and continued disbelief. "They didn't conquer," she transmitted to her colleagues. "They transformed." Holographic displays began showing humanity's trajectory. Where other species had expanded through military conquest or rigid territorial claims, humans had created something entirely different, a living, breathing network of collaborative existence. Projection screens showed unprecedented scenes, human settlements that weren't isolated colonies, but integrated multicultural ecosystems, research stations where biological differences became sources of innovation rather than conflict, educational platforms that transformed learning into a collective adaptive experience. The archive's central quantum processor began compiling the comprehensive analysis. Millions of data points converged, revealing a story that defied traditional understanding of species development. Humanity had approached galactic expansion like a complex living organism. Each challenge was an opportunity, each barrier a potential. Bridge scenes from early human interactions played out, their first diplomatic encounters, technological breakthroughs, unexpected military strategies. Where other species saw limitations, humans saw potential transformations. A young researcher from the mineral-based Krone civilization watched the historical compilation with growing fascination. Human adaptability wasn't just a trait, it was a fundamental approach to existence. They treated the galaxy like a collaborative project, the researcher transmitted, her crystalline structure vibrating with intellectual excitement. The historical compilation revealed layers of complexity, Humans hadn't just expanded territorially. They had created a new model of interstellar cooperation that transformed traditional understanding of civilization. Collaborative research platforms emerged as a key theme. Medical breakthroughs that combined multiple species' biological understanding. Environmental restoration projects that healed entire stellar ecosystems. Educational networks that allowed instantaneous knowledge transfer across unimaginable distances. Military historians were particularly bewildered. Human conflict resolution strategies defied every established galactic model. They didn't seek total victory. They sought understanding. Transformation was their ultimate weapon. Scenes from early human-alien conflicts played out. Where traditional, warfare sought destruction, humans introduced complex negotiation strategies. Battles became opportunities for mutual understanding. Conflicts transformed into collaborative problem-solving platforms. The archive's central processor began generating a comprehensive summary. Humanity's expansion wasn't about territorial conquest. It was about creating a living, adaptive network of collective potential. Dr. Yun's final transmission captured the essence of the historical compilation. Humans didn't just join the galactic community, they reimagined what a community could be. Holographic. Displays showed human settlements across hundreds of star systems, but these weren't traditional colonies. They were living, breathing, multicultural ecosystems where biological, technological, and cultural differences became sources of collective strength. A revolutionary concept emerged from the historical analysis. Humanity had treated the galaxy not as a territory to be conquered, but as a complex collaborative project to be developed. The archive's quantum memory banks pulsed with the profound implications of this understanding. Humans had introduced a fundamentally new approach to civilization, one that saw diversity not as a challenge, but as the primary source of collective potential. Where other species saw boundaries, humans saw bridges. Where others saw differences, humans saw opportunities. Where traditional civilizations retreated, humans advanced. The final historical compilation was clear. Humanity's greatest conquest was not of territory, but of understanding. They had transformed the very concept of galactic existence. The universe would never be the same. End of Part 5. Would you like me to provide any additional context or explore any specific aspect of the story further?